So when you think about these digital services like these telehealth platforms, to talk to me a little bit about how that creates risk and how is that making problems for the industry at the moment?
Yeah, no, sure. And it's really a good question. It's an important question, especially after, what we've experienced in the past, year and a half with the global pandemic, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the data that these cyber criminals are after. And healthcare has advanced to be a priority target for these cyber criminals. And, they're trying to take advantage of healthcare's importance, really focusing on the high value targets for their attacks, right? What will get them the most money? I mean, within healthcare, and you could also include pharma, life sciences industry, and ultimately it's that data that's very lucrative. And as I mentioned, it's really been more of a challenge due to the heightened risk that we're facing with COVID and this global pandemic. And really what they're after, what the target is, healthcare, pharma, life sciences, they transmit and store large volumes of highly regulated information, PHI, PII, payment card, healthcare, insurance information, and all of that really could be easily monetized on the black market. That's the value for criminals as they're seeking to make profit.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the value of like a healthcare record is worth more than a credit card on the black market. So I mean, it's got significant value.
Yeah. And then so fast forward into today and what you're seeing around some of these nation state attacks, where some of the other information that's very important is really around some of those trade secrets, getting advantage. And, all of that data is really important. And then now with the global pandemic and the huge uptick in telehealth and digitizing information into electronic health records, making online appointments, registration type of information, insurance information. I mean, the list goes on, right? And what they're doing is, they're really focusing on this information, knowing that everyone is focused on or should be focused on patient care and less on the security or cybersecurity aspect of it. And, with telehealth, there's a huge risk of exposure and data leakage. Basically, any data that's transferred over the internet runs the risk of interception by these cyber criminals, right?
Of course.
And so, they want those electronic health records, and many platforms today don't meet or don't have the right data, safeguards. They don't meet HIPAA requirements. So that is really the risk and what they're after.
And that sort of leads me on when we think about the attack points. I mean, how's all of this happening? And how can we improve this as well?
Yeah. So I mean, the attack points is really the most, looking into a company's environment and looking at, specific conduits that are the most vulnerable. Some of these attack surfaces are very large for these cyber criminals. And, we as security professionals, or the good guys, if you will, trying to combat and secure our environments. I mean, really, the first step is really understanding, as I mentioned, what is the most critical data? Where does it reside? And how do I protect that? It's very difficult to really protect the full enterprise. You could, patch as much as you want. You could put all these, robust technology and security controls, but really, instead of boiling the ocean, focusing in on your crown jewels.
Matters. Yeah.
And really securing that. So other things that you could do is, really knowing is identity and authentication, really knowing the identities of who's accessing these telehealth platforms. I think that's key as well, right? So identity authentication can be accomplish in through a variety of different approaches. And simple things such as multi-factor authentication, that will, or two pieces of evidence to help sign in, that really help with blocking a lot of these attacks. There's other technology controls around network access controls or the use of encrypted VPN technologies. They can reduce the risk as well, but that's just a piece of the puzzle, right? So you have those preventative controls in place, those technical controls in place, and then what you also want to do is continue to monitor and test your environment. So really having eyes on glass and getting alerted onto any type of suspicious behavior alert, and going through that analysis of those unusual activity through the use of SIM platforms and things of the like, and then eventually evolve into more proactive monitoring and really testing your defenses to ensure that your enterprise can defend these types of attacks.
It's really interesting. Yeah, I think one of the things that you sort of touched on earlier is that I think one of the fundamental things that it feels that quite a lot of healthcare organizations need to do is sort of almost start from the ground up and say, well, we recognize this is such an enormous task in trying to protect this. Like we need to. Well, I can't protect everything. So let's start by figuring out like where is the potential risk? How can I reduce that attack surface? How can I make sure that I know where the stuff that really matters is, and then from there you can start build out. You can build from a data centric perspective. Then you can start thinking about what are the other controls that we can sort of put in place around this stuff here that matters. Like how can we understand who has access that doesn't need access? How can we make sure that people aren't abusing access to this? How can we spot anomalies around this? And you start wrapping all of the other things around it. So essentially, and do correct me, but it feels that you're kind of almost saying that the strategy that a lot of them needs to is like it is quite data centric. It's figure out what matters and then build out from there.
No, absolutely. Because like I said, protecting those crown jewels might not reside everywhere.
No.
So for a large enterprise organization, we had over 40, 45 or so some odd sites or locations globally. And when the global pandemic hit, there were 3 or 4 of locations that were really critical infrastructure to us, because they were the ones that were important based on the business model that we were, generating, and it was really around the development and manufacturing of the vaccine. I needed to protect those. If one of those went down, right, that was the issue for that enterprise company. And don't underestimate the people aspect to this as well, right? Making security a top priority in your healthcare organization. A lot of some of these attacks or some of these, attack vectors really are coming from, phishing attacks and some of these ransomware attacks. People should embrace cybersecurity as part of a corporate culture, and not just a compliance or, check the box type of exercise. Healthcare staff really have a key role in this risk reduction. And your initial question was telehealth. That includes patients as well. So I think that is an important aspect, to train patients and the people and your employees internally to be security aware.